greatness is rarely seen in real time. It's revealed in what survived the silence. Because the highest form of power isn't loud. It's consistent. The loud chase attention. The disciplined chase alignment. Most people want to be seen working. But the ones who last, they work where no one looks. They don't announce progress. They embody it. Every repetition becomes prayer. Every standard becomes protection. The hidden work isn't glamorous. It's the repetition that no one claps for. The patience that feels invisible. It's what separates builders from beginners. What turns silence into a language of mastery. Everyone says they want to be great, until they realize greatness hides behind discipline. Discipline is quiet. It doesn't ask for approval. It doesn't need to be noticed. It just needs time. And time reveals everything. It shows who's working and who's watching. Who's committed and who's pretending. Who's building something real. And who's building for attention. The hidden work is not a phase. It's not a season. It's a decision. To stay when it's quiet. To keep building when nothing's visible. To trust that silence still counts. You won't get celebrated for it. You'll get shaped by it. Because every unseen hour carves something permanent inside you. You'll lose sleep. You'll lose comfort. You'll even lose recognition. But what you gain can't be copied. So if you're still showing up, still sharpening quietly, still honoring what no one applauds, understand this. You're not behind. You're just being built in silence. And when the world finally notices, it won't be your noise they remember. It'll be your work. Welcome to the hidden work. What it takes to become impossible to replace. A beyond the noise cinematic audiobook. Before anyone recognizes your name, your habits will. Because the world never rewards first effort. It rewards the work that outlasts noise. Chapter 1. The work they don't see. No one claps for the beginning. And maybe that's how it should be. Because if you need noise to start, you'll need it to continue. The truth is, the beginning of anything real always happens in silence. When the cameras are off. When no one texts to check in. When the world seems to be moving faster than your progress. That's where your foundation is built. You don't start by being seen. You start by being serious. And seriousness is quiet. It doesn't post every step. It doesn't need to be announced. It just needs to be done. Every great thing you admire began as a private commitment. A small, consistent promise that no one else believed in yet. Because the work that's hidden is the only kind that lasts. It's easy to talk about discipline when eyes are watching. It's harder to live it when no one's keeping score. But that's what separates masters from followers. Masters do the work no one checks. They train in silence. They sharpen in obscurity. Because they understand that visibility is a privilege, not a phase. You earn visibility by surviving invisibility. The problem with most people is they only know how to perform. But performance fades when attention does. Builders don't perform. They prepare. And preparation is rarely exciting. It's repetition that feels redundant. It's structure that looks boring. It's progress that's too quiet to post. But it's those small, unrecorded moments that separate those who start from those who finish. You want to know how to become irreplaceable? Stop chasing applause. Chase alignment. Applause is for moments. Alignment is for lifetimes. There's a reason the hidden work feels lonely. Because silence forces you to meet the parts of you that sound nothing like confidence. Doubt. Insecurity. Imposter thoughts. They all visit you in the quiet. And if you can stay steady through them, if you can build anyway, that's when silence becomes strength. The hidden work will always test your relationship with validation. It will ask, can you do what's right when no one's watching? Can you improve without applause? And every time you answer yes, you build something no one can take. That's what being irreplaceable really means. It's not about being better. It's about being rooted. You'll see others rise faster, louder, flashier. Don't envy that. Because the higher the noise, the weaker the foundation. You're not being delayed. You're being deepened. You're building weight. And weight doesn't move fast. It moves certain. The hidden work is about the moments no one claps for, but everyone benefits from later. It's what gives your excellence something unexplainable. People won't understand why you're different, why your words feel heavier, why your craft feels alive. It's because your work wasn't built for attention. It was built with intention. And intention doesn't age. The hidden work is your proof. You don't need to explain your worth when your consistency speaks louder. You don't need to chase relevance when your results outlive trends. Every builder learns this eventually. The most important hours are the ones no one records. The late nights refining details no one will ever notice. The early mornings when showing up feels pointless. The silent sacrifices that make everything look effortless later. That's the cost of being real. You pay in silence and cash out in legacy. Don't rush to be seen. Rush to be ready. Because the moment your work is seen, the hidden part stops growing. The spotlight is a mirror. It reflects what's already built. And if you skipped your silent hours, the light will expose that too. The hidden work is the insurance against collapse. It's what makes you durable in a world addicted to display. So don't fear being unseen. Fear being unprepared when seen. Remember, no one owes you recognition. They only owe you respect. And respect isn't requested. It's earned in silence. You're not missing out. You're mastering. You're not behind. You're building depth. You're not invisible. You're becoming invaluable. And when the noise finally comes, when the attention finds you, you'll realize something powerful. You didn't need to be seen to be significant. You just needed to stay long enough for your silence to speak. Being unseen isn't punishment. It's protection. You're not being ignored. You're being refined. Chapter 2. The patience to be overlooked. You can't rush what's meant to last. You can only wait with purpose. But patience isn't passive. It's pressure managed in silence. Being overlooked doesn't mean you're unqualified. It just means your timing hasn't been called yet. And when your name isn't being mentioned, that's when your character is being measured. It's easy to stay confident when the world is clapping. It's harder when the room goes quiet. But that's where most people lose themselves. In the quiet moments where nothing seems to be happening. The truth? Everything happens there. Growth isn't loud. It's not glamorous. It's not for the impatient. It's slow, repetitive, uncelebrated. You'll question your path more than once. You'll look at people who started after you and wonder why they're being noticed before you. But visibility and value don't grow on the same timeline. Some people look like they're winning until time exposes what they skipped. Others look like they're waiting until time reveals what they were building. Patience is the bridge between effort and evidence. You can't see it yet, but the quiet is multiplying your value. There's something sacred about being overlooked. It removes the temptation to perform. When no one's watching, you stop acting for approval and start aligning with truth. The world calls it being behind. The wise call it being built. Because pressure without applause is where real patience is forged. Patience isn't waiting quietly. It's working faithfully, even when no one asks for updates. It's learning to separate your worth from your visibility. Because your value doesn't shrink just because no one's clapping. The overlooked seasons are where your roots decide how deep to go. Don't fight the stillness. Grow through it. The universe will always test your patience before it trusts your persistence. It hides the results to see if your reasons are real. And when you stay consistent through that hidden season, you're proving to life itself that you're not doing this for validation. You're doing this because you were built for it. Patience is proof of faith in your own foundation. It says, even if it takes longer for me, I'd rather be ready than recognized. The impatient build quickly. The patient build permanently. And permanence always outlives popularity. Being overlooked is not rejection. It's refinement. It teaches you who you are without applause. It shows you whether you'd still show up if no one ever noticed. Most people never make it here. They need the world to say you're doing well, to believe it. But builders learn to say it to themselves. Because self-respect is louder than any praise. And the silence that breaks others becomes your sanctuary. You don't wait for the right conditions anymore. You become the condition. You don't wait for perfect timing. You create timing. That's what patience teaches. Power without permission. Sometimes life hides you to sharpen you. It hides you to humble you. It hides you to make sure your character can carry your calling. And that's not delay. That's design. Because if you arrive too early, your blessing becomes a burden. But if you grow through patience, you arrive prepared. And prepared people don't chase, they attract. They move slower, but they move stronger. They build less, but it lasts longer. The patience to be overlooked is the training ground for legacy. Because legacy isn't made of talent, it's made of endurance. The ones who last don't have the loudest beginnings. They just have the strongest reasons. Every unseen year is a deposit into your depth account. Every uncelebrated effort is an investment into your permanence. You're not falling behind. You're fortifying. And when the time is right, nothing will be able to move you. That's the reward for patience. Peace. Peace that doesn't beg. Peace that doesn't rush. Peace that doesn't depend. Be grateful when no one sees you. It's the safest time to grow. Be grateful when they overlook you. It means you're still protected from expectation. And be grateful when it feels like nothing's moving, because that's when everything inside you is becoming unshakable. The seed doesn't question the soil. It just grows until light finds it. So let them overlook you. Let them doubt you. Let them sleep on your name. Because when patience finishes its work, even the blind will feel your presence. That's what hidden work does. It makes you undeniable. Patience teaches restraint. Now it's time to learn refinement. Because the next stage of mastery isn't about working more. It's about working better. Chapter 3: Precision over Perfection. You don't become irreplaceable by doing everything. You become irreplaceable by doing the right things well. Perfection is performance. Precision is peace. Most people don't fail because they lack effort. They fail because their effort lacks direction. They chase flawless instead of focused. But perfection is a moving target. Precision is a mindset. One drains you. The other defines you. The loudest workers try to do everything. The masters know how to choose. Because mastery isn't about how much you do. It's about how cleanly you do it. Precision is quiet confidence. It doesn't chase approval. It doesn't need to prove. It's the calm of someone who's seen enough to know what matters and what doesn't. The beginner asks, "What can I add?" The master asks, "What can I remove?" The perfectionist needs to be right. The precise just needs to be true. There's a difference between working on everything and working on the right thing long enough. The first builds exhaustion. The second builds excellence. Precision is patience with purpose. It's not about being faster. It's about being intentional. The hidden work refines you through repetition. But repetition without awareness only perfects mistakes. You can't master what you don't measure. Precision isn't about control. It's about clarity. It's knowing exactly why you're doing what you're doing, and refusing to waste energy on what doesn't matter. It's cutting noise like a blade through fog. Most people call their chaos creativity. But chaos only hides your lack of commitment. Real creativity is order disguised as freedom. Precision gives your art structure, your discipline direction, your silence strength. You don't need more hours. You need more accuracy. more intent behind every movement, more awareness behind every action. Perfection makes you rigid. Precision makes you resilient. Because when you move with precision, you stop chasing outcomes and start mastering process. Process is the real product. What you're building on the inside is always more important than what the world sees outside. That's what the hidden work is about. Not showing progress, but sharpening precision. Perfection says, I need to be seen doing this right. Precision says, I just need to do it right. One is fueled by insecurity, the other by integrity. And the difference between them is the difference between burnout and peace. When you master precision, you stop rushing to finish and start respecting the craft. You don't polish for praise. You polish for purpose. You learn to value every small correction, because every correction makes you cleaner. Precision is the discipline of the details, the invisible polish that makes your work look effortless later. That's why the unseen hours matter, because the smaller the detail you master, the fewer mistakes the world will ever see. The hidden work doesn't just make you better, it makes you flawless under pressure. The perfectionist folds when things don't go as planned. The precise adapts, because perfection breaks under change. Precision responds to it. You can't grow if you need everything to go right. The work won't always go cleanly. You will mess up. But precision turns mistakes into feedback. It doesn't see failure. It sees data. And that's how you win silently. You don't panic when things fall apart. You adjust. That's what mastery really is. Not knowing everything, but knowing what matters most. The rest can fall away. So ask yourself every day, what's worth perfecting? What's worth letting go? Because both require effort. But only one creates peace. The more precise you become, the quieter you get. Because you start to see how little noise is needed to make something timeless. You don't chase opportunities. You craft readiness. You don't compete. You calibrate. That's precision. It's not about control. It's about composure. The world teaches you to move fast. Precision teaches you to move right. The world celebrates output. Precision celebrates impact. The world wants you to perform. Precision wants you to perfect. And when your precision becomes habit, your silence becomes your signature. You stop being impressive. You start being inevitable. So no, don't chase perfection. Perfection belongs to fear. Chase precision. Because precision belongs to mastery. And mastery doesn't make noise. It makes standards. Standards that last long after you do. Precision sharpens your craft. But standards define your identity. Because mastery isn't about what you can do. It's about what you refuse to accept. Chapter 4. The Weight of Standards. The higher your standard, the heavier your peace. Because peace without pressure is just comfort in disguise. The truth is, your standards will isolate you long before they elevate you. But that isolation is where your power begins. Most people want excellence. until it asks them to repeat the basics without being bored. They want mastery until they realize it's built on maintenance. And they want greatness without carrying its weight. But the weight of standards is what separates the ordinary from the inevitable. Standards are invisible boundaries, not rules, but reminders of what you won't become. You can always tell who has them. They don't need to announce their discipline. They walk with quiet certainty. They do the same work, regardless of who's watching. Because standards are self-respect disguised as repetition. Every builder must decide, do you want to be liked or respected? Because you can't have both. Standards will cost you comfort. They'll cost you acceptance. They'll even cost you companionship. But what they give you in return can't be borrowed, copied, or bought. Standards give you clarity, the clean stillness that comes from knowing you didn't fold when you could have. That's the hidden confidence of people who hold themselves high. They don't feel the need to explain. They just are. Because when your standard becomes your identity, excellence stops being an act. It becomes instinct. Standards are heavy. That's why most people drop them. They'd rather adjust the expectation than rise to meet it. But every time you lower your standard to make others comfortable, you betray the future version of yourself, the one who's waiting for you to stay consistent, even when it's inconvenient. That's what the hidden work demands, that you stop negotiating your effort. The ones who become impossible to replace are those who stay faithful when no one checks their quality. They refine what's unseen. They master what's unnoticed. They don't do it for credit. They do it for character. Because the unseen standard always becomes the visible signature. That's why your silence has to be clean. If your private work is sloppy, your public results will betray you. Precision without principle is just performance. But when your principle is precision, everything you touch carries weight. Standards don't show up on the surface. They're built underneath. In the decisions no one applauds. Saying no when yes would get you noticed. Starting over when you could have faked it. Finishing clean when no one would have checked. Those are the quiet decisions that define the loudest reputations. The loud talk about passion. The builders talk about standards. Your standard is what protects your gift. It's the fence around your focus. It keeps distractions out and discipline in. That's why the higher you rise, the smaller your circle gets. Because people who don't share your standards will always call your discipline obsession. But obsession is just another word for consistency that makes others uncomfortable. The weight of standards is heavy, yes, but it's also holy. It's sacred to hold something steady in a world that keeps changing its values. The world tells you to relax. Standards tell you to remember who you are. You're not meant to blend in. You're meant to be a reference point. Because when others forget what excellence looks like, your work should remind them. Not by preaching, but by performing quietly at a level they can feel but can't imitate. That's the invisible pressure of those who lead by example. They don't speak loudly. They work deeply. Your standard is your brand. Your reputation is built on what you refuse to lower. People will test it. They'll ask you to do less, to hurry more, to bend for convenience. And when you don't, they'll call you difficult. But that's the tax of integrity. The world rarely rewards boundaries, until it breaks from the lack of them. So hold the line, even when it's lonely, because every time you do, you remind life what you stand for. The hidden work is not about doing more. It's about doing it better. Over and over and over again. Not because you're chasing perfection, but because you respect the craft enough not to offer it half your effort. The higher your standard, the less you'll need to talk, because your results will do the explaining. The weight of standards will feel heavy at first, but eventually it feels like peace, because you no longer question yourself when you know you gave your best. And peace built on discipline will always outlast pride built on noise. So yes, standards will make you tired, but so will regret. Choose the weight that leaves you proud. Because when your standard becomes sacred, your silence becomes your proof. And when your work becomes your witness, no one can question what you've built. That's the weight of standards. Heavy now, but holy later. Standards hold you steady, but discipline keeps you going. Because when motivation fades, and it will, only discipline remembers the promise you made. Chapter 5: The Discipline That Outlasts Motivation. Motivation gets you started. Discipline keeps you standing. It's easy to feel inspired when everything's new. It's harder when the excitement leaves, and all that's left is repetition. But that's where mastery begins. When the work stops being thrilling and starts being necessary. Motivation needs a reason. Discipline is the reason. That's why most people quit. They confuse momentum with meaning. But the ones who last, they've learned to move without mood. Motivation fades when conditions change. Discipline remains, because it's built on conviction, not convenience. Discipline is loyalty to what you said you'd do, even after the feeling left. It's how you prove to yourself that your word still holds weight. Most people work hard until it stops being easy. The disciplined work hard until it stops being optional. Motivation speaks in sparks. Discipline speaks in structure. One flares up, the other holds steady. And if you want to outlast everyone around you, stop chasing energy. Start building endurance. Motivation asks, do I feel like it today? Discipline says, it doesn't matter. Because consistency isn't a mood, it's a mindset. The hidden work will always test your discipline. It will strip you of recognition, reward, and reassurance, until all that's left is your decision to continue. Most people only work well when someone's watching. The disciplined know that the unseen hours are the only ones that matter. You can't fake consistency. You can only build it. Slowly, quietly, faithfully. Discipline doesn't look heroic. It looks repetitive. It looks like waking up early, when the results still look the same. It looks like refining what no one noticed you fixed. It looks like progress without applause. And it feels like loneliness, because no one celebrates consistency until it starts producing miracles. Miracles are just mastery, repeated in silence. Motivation comes from outside. Discipline grows from within. Motivation needs music. Discipline needs meaning. Motivation needs a good mood. Discipline needs a mission. That's why the disciplined look calm, while everyone else looks desperate. They're not waiting for energy. They are the energy. Because when the feeling fades, the faithful remain. Discipline is the quietest power there is. It doesn't announce. It isn't demanding. It just decides. Every day you keep your word. You build something sacred inside you. Integrity. Integrity is invisible confidence. You'll never have to convince anyone, when your consistency already does the talking. The disciplined don't chase deadlines. They build systems. Because deadlines pressure you once. Systems protect you always. Systems are how you move on the days when emotion isn't enough. And that's the truth no one wants to hear. Discipline is boring. But boredom is where greatness begins. The work isn't always exciting, but excitement doesn't build excellence. Repetition does. The disciplined don't crave results. They crave rhythm. Because results come and go. Rhythm endures. And rhythm is just discipline, disguised as peace. The longer you stay in rhythm, the less you'll need reward. Because doing it right starts feeling better than being told you did it right. That's how mastery feels. Sacred repetition. Motivation is emotional energy. Discipline is spiritual endurance. One burns out. The other builds character. Discipline is what stands when everything else falls apart. It's what makes you dependable when the world becomes unpredictable. It's the voice that says, we still show up, even when we don't feel like it. And that voice is how you win quietly. Discipline will cost you softness. It will harden your focus. It will sharpen your soul. But it will also protect you from wasting years on half-hearted effort. Because half effort produces full regret. So when the day feels heavy, when your energy is low, your progress invisible, your reward uncertain, remind yourself, you don't work for motivation. You work for mastery. Motivation fades when people forget you. Discipline keeps you ready when they remember. That's why the greats never peak early. They're always sharpening for what's next. You'll see others rise fast. Chase every trend. Change direction every month. Don't copy that chaos. Stay still. Stay consistent. Because while they burn bright, you'll burn forever. Discipline is devotion in motion. It's prayer turned practice. You don't talk about it. You live it. You don't prove it. You become it. And the more disciplined you get, the quieter you become. Because peace loves order, and order is born from discipline. Every repetition refines you. Every act of discipline defines you. So when motivation runs out, keep going. When energy disappears, keep going. When applause goes silent, keep going. Because the hidden work rewards those who keep moving forward. Chapter 6: The Value That Can't Be Copied. The rarest thing in the world is something that can't be copied. That's why mastery takes so long. It has to become yours. Because repetition builds skill, but refinement builds signature. And signature is what makes your work unforgettable. You don't become valuable by doing what others do. You become valuable by doing what only you can do, the way only you would do it. The hidden work is where you build that difference. Anyone can copy your ideas. No one can copy your evolution. Because evolution is earned. It's not downloaded, borrowed, or mimicked. They can imitate your words, but not your weight. Because weight comes from experience, from the quiet repetition that forged you in private. That's why imitation never lasts. It copies the surface, but it can't carry the story. Your value isn't just what you create. It's what you survived to create it. Every hardship became data. Every delay became texture. Every failure became depth. That's what they can't copy. You're becoming. There's a difference between being good and being undeniable. Good comes from imitation. Undeniable comes from the origin. And origin is the part of you that no one can fake. The world loves trends. But trends die in repetition. What lives forever is truth expressed authentically. And truth takes time to refine. You can't rush originality. It has to be discovered. And discovery only happens when you've mastered patience, precision, and discipline. That's the reward of the hidden work. It polishes your differences. The more you repeat, the more you start noticing your rhythm, the tone of your effort, the shape of your habits, the fingerprint of your focus. That rhythm becomes your identity. And your identity becomes your edge. You don't need to compete when you're creating from identity. Because competition fades, where authenticity begins. No one can beat you at being you. The reason most people are replaceable is because they borrowed their value. They mirror what's popular. They echo what's trending. But borrowed brilliance always expires. The moment you stop copying and start crafting, you start separating. That's the birth of individuality. It's quiet. It's slow. It's unglamorous. But it's yours. Everyone says they want to be original, until originality costs them approval. Because to build something unique means being misunderstood for a while. You'll question yourself. Others will question you more. But that's how uniqueness feels. Before it's recognized. The very thing they laugh at now is what they'll quote later. If you can stand through mockery, you'll live long enough for imitation. That's the irony of originality. You're criticized before you're copied. Your value isn't proven by applause. It's proven by imitation. When they start copying you, it means you've become reference material. But even then, Don't stop evolving. Because the moment you stop improving, imitation catches up. Your difference must stay alive. That's what keeps your value growing. There's power in being uncopyable. Not because it makes you better, but because it makes you necessary. The world doesn't reward loudness. It rewards necessity. When your work becomes essential, your presence becomes undeniable. That's how the unseen becomes unforgettable. The hidden work makes you necessary by making you specific. And specificity is where all greatness lives. Anyone can copy your technique. No one can copy your transformation. Because transformation changes the texture of how you show up. It adds depth to your tone, conviction to your craft, and soul to your structure. That's the value that can't be copied. The essence behind the execution. People can imitate your work, but they can't imitate your becoming. So don't rush recognition. Just refine your rhythm. Keep building where it's quiet. Keep polishing what feels unseen. Because eventually, the world will feel the texture of your truth. And when they ask how you did it, you'll smile quietly. Because they'll never understand how long it took to sound that simple. Simplicity is the final stage of mastery. It's when your difference becomes effortless. The hidden work makes you rare. Not because it gives you everything, but because it makes you irreplaceable. And the world always comes back to what it can't replace. That's how you last. You've refined your difference. Now, it's time to let the work speak. Because when your craft begins to carry its own voice, silence becomes applause. Chapter 7. When the craft starts speaking for you. There comes a point when your craft starts to speak louder than you do. When words can't carry what your work already says. That's when you know you've crossed over from trying to prove to simply being undeniable. The work has found its voice. And now, you no longer need to shout. The echo carries itself. For years, you worked in silence. You polished when no one noticed. You refined when no one clapped. You kept the standard when it was lonely. You stayed when others quit. And now, the world begins to notice. Not because you demanded it, but because excellence makes its own noise. You don't have to chase recognition when your results radiate truth. The work becomes your witness. You'll know this moment when it comes. The energy shifts. The room feels different when you enter. Not because you've become louder, but because your silence now carries weight. That's the sound of earned presence. You stopped talking about what you would do, and started doing it long enough for your work to become your language. And language built in silence is understood in every room. Most people try to announce their value, but the ones who last let the work make the introduction. Because real credibility doesn't come from talking about what you've done. It comes from doing it long enough for the results to stop being debated. You no longer need validation when your craft has a voice of its own. Every sound, every gesture, every detail now carries your signature. You've gone from trying to convince to simply be felt. The craft speaks in silence, not through words. but through precision and presence. When you walk into a room, your energy says, "I've done the work." Not once, not sometimes, always. And that steadiness, that quiet consistency, is louder than any performance. When the craft starts speaking for you, you stop selling yourself. You stop explaining your worth. You stop begging for opportunity, because opportunity now calls your name. That's what real work does. It doesn't chase stages. It builds one. It doesn't wait for permission. It becomes proof. And proof doesn't need persuasion. The hidden work was never just about endurance. It was about becoming undeniable. So when the craft starts to speak, it's not arrogance. It's arrival. The arrival of a voice, built entirely from silence. The arrival of presence, sculpted from patience. The arrival of a name that no longer needs to be introduced. Your craft is now fluent in integrity. It speaks the language of precision. Every detail you obsessed over now tells the story for you. Every hour you spent unseen now glows through your results. This is the justice of time. It always speaks for consistency. You won't have to argue for your value anymore. You'll just show up. And presence will do what performance never could. When the craft starts speaking, people feel it before they see it. They can't always describe it, but they know they're in the presence of reality. That's the thing about truth. It doesn't need volume. Just consistency. Consistency is credibility in motion. It's how your silence begins to echo, louder than everyone else's noise. When the craft speaks, it tells the world, "I've earned this." Without argument, without defense, just quiet conviction. And the beauty of it all? You don't even notice it happening. Because by the time the world starts clapping, you've already moved on to your next evolution. You're not chasing recognition anymore. You're chasing refinement. That's when you know you've become the work itself. You'll start hearing your ideas in other people's voices, seeing your style in other people's projects. And at first, you'll feel robbed. Then you'll realize you've become a reference. You are now the standard. That's what happens when the craft speaks. Imitation becomes proof. And proof is louder than any introduction. You don't need to post everything anymore. The right people already feel your presence. You don't need to make an effort. The work already speaks of it. You don't even need to talk about your journey. The quality of your silence already tells the story. This is mastery's reward. The peace of knowing you've already said enough. So when your craft starts speaking, don't interrupt it. Let it echo. Let it reach who it's meant to reach. You don't have to push anymore. The gravity of your growth will pull everything you need. This is the quiet victory. The loud will never understand. Because they were too busy talking while you were becoming. And now, your silence has the final word. When the work begins to speak, the next test begins. Learning to stay grounded when they start clapping. Because applause is as dangerous as doubt. And the same silence that built you must protect you from being owned by praise. Chapter 8: Outgrowing Praise. Praise feels good until it starts slowing you down. The same applause that once motivated you can quietly trap you if you start building for it. Because if you need their claps to keep going, you'll start performing instead of progressing. And the moment you start performing, you stop evolving. That's how mastery dies. Slowly, in the comfort of approval. Praise is a mirror. If you look into it too long, you forget what you looked like before they noticed you. You start adjusting your craft for reaction instead of refinement. You start craving the feeling instead of the purpose. And slowly, the work that used to be sacred becomes a performance. That's why silence must remain your home, even after the noise finds you. You'll notice it happening when praise starts to pull you out of your process. When you catch yourself wondering who's watching instead of why you started. That's the signal. You've outgrown the approval that used to feed you. You don't need to be ungrateful, just unattached. Gratitude keeps you humble. Attachment keeps you trapped. And your freedom is found in remembering that applause was never the goal. Alignment was. You didn't build this for recognition. You built it to become. And becoming never ends. The moment you think you've made it, you start losing the hunger that made you. Comfort is the silent enemy of mastery. It flatters you into stillness. It whispers, "You've done enough." But the builders know better. They don't measure by applause. They measure by alignment. Praise can be a test disguised as a gift. It checks if you love the process or the performance. The ones who stay grounded don't reject praise. They just don't depend on it. Because once you need it, you lose your power. Your power is in indifference, not arrogance, but balance. Knowing who you are, even when no one's clapping. There's peace in realizing that praise doesn't add to your worth. It only reflects it. They're not validating you. They're catching up to what you already knew. That's why gratitude is enough. You can accept appreciation without needing addiction. Because real peace isn't built from praise. It's built from presence. And presence doesn't ask to be seen. The higher you rise, the more dangerous praise becomes. Because people will start loving your results and forgetting your reasons. They'll try to name your purpose for you. They'll label your silence as pride, your standards as stubbornness. Don't defend it. Just keep building. You don't owe the world explanations for the standards that shaped you. You owe your craft loyalty, even when the applause tries to pull you away. The loud crave attention. The disciplined crave accuracy. One builds for reaction. The other builds for remembrance. And only one of them lasts. Because fame fades, where truth stays faithful. The noise can't sustain what the silence built. You'll miss the validation. You'll feel misunderstood when you stop performing for approval. But what replaces it is stronger. Peace, clarity, creative honesty. You start creating again, like you did before they were watching. Pure, focused, untouched by ego. That's when your work evolves again. Because the work that's done for applause always dies when it stops receiving it. But the work done for purpose never dies. It multiplies. You'll know you've outgrown praise when stillness feels louder than compliments, when peace feels better than being noticed, when you stop checking reactions and start protecting your rhythm. Praise is temporary oxygen. The purpose is eternal breath. You don't need to hate attention. You just need to never depend on it. Because dependence is how attention becomes addiction. But when you can love quietly and build privately, the noise loses its control. And that's freedom, not needing to be seen to feel seen. Outgrowing praise is realizing that what used to fuel you now distracts you. The silence that once felt like punishment now feels like protection. You've returned home, not to the start of your journey, but to the heart of it. You no longer work to prove. You work to preserve. The standard, the stillness, the story. Because the ones who last aren't the ones most praised. They're the ones most rooted. Praise can echo for a while, but only silence can prove. The next stage of mastery isn't about being remembered. It's about becoming undeniable through stillness. Because what can be explained can be doubted, but what's felt in silence can never be forgotten. Chapter 9. The proof is in the silence. You don't have to defend what's real. You just have to keep doing it. Because in time, everything false fades, and everything true remains. The world loves to argue with words, but time listens to silence. Silence never lies. It only reveals. The longer you stay committed, the quieter your confidence becomes. Because you stop needing to prove, and start allowing proof to reveal itself. That's what mastery feels like. Quiet conviction. You don't explain the work anymore. You embody it. Your presence starts speaking in ways your voice never could. Silence is not emptiness. It's evidence. Evidence that the foundation is strong, that your work has depth, that your growth is genuine. The loud are still explaining. The disciplined are still executing. The wise, they're silent. Because silence is what mastery sounds like when it stops needing attention. Every builder reaches this stage. The quiet plateau where there's nothing left to prove, only more to refine. It's not glamorous. It's not celebrated. But it's the most peaceful season you'll ever know. Because silence becomes the space between knowing and needing. You don't need recognition when your results already whisper your name. You don't need validation when consistency has already built your credibility. The proof is not in the noise. It's in the stillness that follows. The quiet confidence that no one can shake. The proof is in how you carry yourself after failure. Calm, unbothered, focused. The proof is in how you react to success. Steady, humble, unchanged. The proof is in your restraint, in the way you stay grounded, while others lose themselves to praise, in how you stay patient, while others panic to be seen. You don't need to tell people who you are anymore. The energy around you does it for you. Your silence now carries more presence than your voice ever did. That's the final stage of mastery. Peace that can't be explained. You've moved beyond performing. You've moved beyond proving. You've even moved beyond planning. You're just being. The proof is in your patterns. The way you move when no one's asking. The decisions you make when no one's watching. The consistency that needs no reminder. You've built something sacred, not a brand, but a backbone. And it shows. Real confidence isn't announced. It arrives. The proof is in the calm. The way you stop competing. The way you smile at your old self and realize you don't need to prove anything to them anymore. Because they were chasing validation. You're chasing evolution. Evolution is silent. It doesn't announce change. It becomes it. That's how the greats move. Quiet. Precise. Constant. People will notice it. They'll say, "You seem different." But you won't know how to explain it. Because how do you describe peace that doesn't need permission? How do you explain strength that doesn't need sound? That's the beauty of silence. It holds everything words can't. It's not absence. It's arrival. You've done the work. You've paid the price. You've endured the waiting. Now, you no longer speak about it. You simply are it. The world can debate opinions. But I can't argue with consistency. The proof is in the silence. In the still presence of someone who's outgrown both doubt and noise. You've become the result. The proof isn't in what you say anymore. It's in what your energy confirms. In how your silence commands respect. In how your effort echoes without words. In how your peace feels unshakable. That's the language of mastery. Stillness that can't be misinterpreted. The longer you walk with it, the fewer explanations you'll ever need. Because real power doesn't ask to be understood. It asks to be felt. Silence proves what noise pretends to be. But proof alone isn't enough. The next chapter is about embodiment. Transforming proof into presence. Because the final stage of the hidden work isn't being great. It's becoming irreplaceable. Chapter 10. Becoming impossible to replace. You can't be replaced when what you do is born from who you are. Because replication can mimic skill, but it can't reproduce spirit. That's the difference between talent and presence. Talent fills space. Presence shifts it. The hidden work isn't just about improvement. It's about embodiment. Becoming so aligned with your craft that the lines between you and it disappear. That's when you stop working the craft, and the craft starts working through you. Anyone can copy your process. No one can copy your becoming. Because the process builds skill, but the becoming builds the soul. You become impossible to replace when you no longer do it for approval. When your only motive is precision. The moment you start doing it for love, not likes, you separate from everyone chasing attention. That's the invisible line between great and essential. Irreplaceability is not about being the best. It's about being true. Truth has texture. It's felt in your tone, your timing, your presence. You've earned this truth. Through patience, through silence, through discipline, you've built something that carries your fingerprint in every detail. And that fingerprint, that essence, is what makes you irreplaceable. The world can replicate your product. It can't replicate your process. It can imitate your structure, but not your soul. Because what they'll never understand is that your results weren't built from methods. They were built from meaning. Meaning leaves residue. It lingers even after you're gone. That's what legacy feels like. The echo of presence without the need for presence. You become impossible to replace the moment you stop working for applause and start working from alignment. Alignment doesn't chase speed. It chases truth. The truest thing about you will always outlast the loudest thing about you. Let them copy your steps. They'll still miss your soul. Because the hidden work wasn't just about what you did. It was about who you became while doing it. You can't become irreplaceable without first becoming independent. Independent of praise. Independent of validation. Independent of needing to be seen. Because once your work starts speaking for itself, your name no longer needs to. You'll realize the only thing left to chase is peace. Peace in knowing that no one can take what was built in silence, with standards, through discipline, and for truth. The builders don't talk about being irreplaceable. They just make it impossible not to feel them. Through the weight of their craft. Through the texture of their choices. Through the presence that remains long after they leave the room. That's the secret of the hidden work. Permanence through precision. You don't have to be everywhere when your impact is everywhere you've been. Irreplaceability is spiritual. It's not about being recognized. It's about being remembered differently. You stop chasing attention because your excellence already commands it. You stop comparing because your work no longer lives in the same world as imitation. You've outgrown validation. You've outgrown competition. All that's left is conviction. There's peace in knowing that no one else could have built it this way. That the struggle, the timing, the solitude, all of it was tailor-made for your strength. Because what makes you irreplaceable is not what you achieved. It's what you endured. Irreplaceable people aren't the most talented. They're the most consistent. They're the ones who kept showing up when no one said their name. And now, they've become the reference point for everyone else's effort. You don't need to be in every room when your discipline has already left a presence in each. That's how you outlast noise. That's how you earn permanence. You're not chasing a legacy. You're living it quietly. Because legacy is not built in death. It's built in repetition. Every act of patience. Every detail is refined. Every standard was kept when it hurt too. That's what makes you eternal. You become impossible to replace when excellence stops being effort and starts being essence. When people feel your name, even when it's not mentioned. When they see your fingerprint in everything you've ever built. When you're gone, and the work still feels alive. That's immortality. You can't force it. You can only become it. Every hour you gave in silence became a signature the world can't erase. You didn't just build something. You became someone. Someone whose presence changed the atmosphere. Someone whose work carried their name. That's the proof of the hidden work. Permanence through purpose. You've become the work. Now it's time to let it teach. Because the only thing rarer than greatness is leaving greatness behind. When your effort becomes example, your legacy becomes the lesson. For the ones still building, I know what it feels like to give everything and still go unnoticed. To show up early, to stay late, to hold yourself to a standard no one ever asked you to keep. To wonder if the silence means you're wasting time, or if it's preparing you. To keep going even when no one claps, because somewhere inside, you know it still matters. This is for you. The quiet ones, the disciplined ones, the patient ones, the ones who are becoming everything without saying anything. You are not behind. You are being built. The silence you're in isn't punishment, it's preparation. You're not losing time. You're learning timing. The waiting is working, even if you can't see it yet. Every builder has this chapter, the invisible one. The one where you work harder than you ever have, but no one seems to notice. The one where you question everything, but keep showing up anyway. Don't curse it. Cherish it. Because one day, you'll look back and realize, this was the most sacred part of the story. The quiet that shaped your conviction. Greatness doesn't arrive with applause. It arrives in fragments. One act of discipline at a time. One quiet decision after another. You're not waiting for your moment. You're becoming it. Every repetition is proof. Every sacrifice is data. The noise will never understand the patience of the builders. But time will. Time always rewards the ones who stayed. You're not supposed to be seen yet. You're supposed to be sharpened. The ones who arrive too soon don't survive the spotlight. You'll last. Because you took your time. You built it without shortcuts. You built it with silence. You built it with soul. And that's why you'll stay. One day, they'll see what you've built. And they'll call it sudden. They'll call it luck. They'll call it timing. But you'll know the truth. It was never sudden. It was sustained. Built slowly, quietly, faithfully. That's what makes it permanent. The hidden work doesn't make you special. It makes you solid. It makes you dependable when others are emotional. It makes you unshakable when everything else moves. Don't rush to be seen. Rush to be ready. Because when the light finally finds you, it will expose everything you built in the dark. And if you built it right, the silence will speak louder than any noise ever could. This is your season of sacred obscurity. Don't waste it wishing for exposure. Use it to become undeniable, to refine your craft, to master your habits, to outgrow your ego. Because the moment you start needing the world to notice, you forget what made you powerful in the first place. Stillness, precision, peace. Keep showing up. Keep sharpening. Keep building what no one claps for. The noise will fade. The light will come. And when it does, you'll be ready. Because what's built in silence can't be broken by sound. The work will speak. The peace will remain. And the world will finally realize what you've known all along. Greatness was never loud. It was always quiet. It was always beyond the noise. Keep building. You're not unseen. You're being shaped. And one day, the silence that tested you will be the same silence that introduces you. Final whisper. For the ones still in the dark, don't rush your dawn. The sun is slow, because the light that lasts is never rushed. If this message spoke to you, share it. Subscribe. Keep listening. This is Beyond the Noise Studio.